Coming up on AEA Amplified, Mike Adamson, President and CEO of the AEA.
From the Aircraft Electronics Association, this is AEA Amplified, a podcast for aviation's technology experts, with your host, Geoff Hill.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to AEA Amplified. I'm Geoff Hill, the Director of Communications for the AEA and the editor of Avionics News. With me today is Mike Adamson, the President and CEO of the Aircraft Electronics Association. Mike, thanks for joining us, and how are you doing today?
Real good, Geoff. How are you?
I'm doing great. This is our inaugural episode of AEA Amplified, so it's an honor and a privilege to speak with you and thank you for your time and give an update for AEA members and those interested in association activities. So before we jump into, we want to talk about some in-person events, but before we do that, let's reset just a little bit and look back. Obviously, 2020 has been an interesting year for everyone. If you look back to late February and early to mid-March, that was right about the time that the AEA was getting prepared to have its annual convention in Nashville, which unfortunately had to be postponed due to the pandemic. But going back to that from mid-March, can you just kind of give us an update on the association and how it's continued operations and its member services during the pandemic?
Absolutely. First of all, I just want to say thank you for the time today and actually how excited I am for this new platform for AEA to reach out to the industry and to our members. Really, this podcast is another channel for us, and it's going to give everyone the opportunity to listen, learn about the key issues and key players, making an impact in the business and general aviation. So thank you for coordinating this exciting new effort. So yeah, going back to March and, when we were sort of forced to make, the decision to initially postpone and eventually cancel our show, we've really had an interesting summer for our members and for the industry. But really, as quickly as we shut things down, our members were really up and running in a couple weeks. And, as they were deemed essential, they were just sort of adhering to new workplace, safety criteria and opening their operations back up. And what we found shortly after that, about the May timeframe, we surveyed our shops, we kind of saw some surprising results, really. We thought the backlogs would be shrinking more. We thought there'd be a bigger impact on operations, and you'd see some workforce reductions. But really, in the early months of this, we didn't see that. In fact, the only thing that the shops really were focused on at that point was curbing some of their spending. And so that was telling to us that maybe as essential operations, our members were going to be able to continue their business and, maybe not have the customer interactions that they're used to, but still be able to work on airplanes. And what we've heard in recent months with folks visiting the facility, it's kind of continued that theme. We're hearing that there's a lot of quote activity and a fairly steady stream of business, sort of as the shops and their customers, take advantage of open slots in their backlog, and their members seek value. And what we heard from the manufacturers, that sales were down a little bit, 25 to 30% in that second quarter, consistent with what we were hearing in other industries. There was some talk of, or some concern of, interruptions in the supply chain, which they immediately started working on, but still continued to certify product, do research and development for new products, and gear up for 21. And then from an association standpoint, the staff, continued operations really as if we were in the office. So we've been working from home, but it's been the same as if we were in the office. And when we did that, throughout the summer, we were still able to host classes, and we're still able to provide our usual member benefits and services with no interruption. So we're pretty excited about that. And as things start to open back up, we're gearing up for a busy fall, and and certainly excited about 21 and all that it can promise.
So that's a great segue moving into the fall there and talking about the in-person events and a path forward. After months of widespread closures, really all 50 states are now in some stage of reopening, and the face-to-face events industry is certainly restarting. We're seeing schools and businesses are reopening across the country. We're seeing professional and college sporting events have resumed. Even large in-person events are starting to come back with groups of more than 1,000 people recently gathering in Florida and Indiana. So we've seen a lot of positive signs in recent weeks, and that's true even within the aviation industry. The North Dakota Aviation Association recently announced that the inaugural Fly Indy Career Expo, which will be at the Fargo Air Museum on October the 30th. And in addition, the AEA recently conducted 4 full weeks of training at its headquarters in Lee Summit, Missouri, and had no health issues. So what did those in-person training classes look like for those who were in attendance? How many people attended, and how did those attendees respond?
Yeah, I'll give you an update. First of all, credit to everybody who is attempting to host an in-person show or classroom event or training or meeting of some sort. We've seen that over the summer from different types of ceremonies like graduation events and weddings and I guess even funerals. So for the folks that are dealing with that or attempting to host something like that, credit to them to try and get it back open, and that's simply what we're trying to do. About mid-July timeframe, we decided that after reviewing the local and state CDC guidelines and county guidelines and protocols, that there really was a window for us to open the facility back up with appropriate measures in place and offer training again. I'll tell you this, the interest from the industry was certainly there for it. And we did that with a class in mid-July and a week-long class. We had success with that. We're limiting our groups to 15 people. They can be spaced in our training facility pretty easily, easily 6 feet apart. And with the masks and all the protective things that we can provide, they're able to attend the classes and attend our training. So that was exciting for us. That actually felt like what we'd done in the past, minus the head count. We normally have classes in the 20 to 25 range, so we were down a little bit in numbers, but it was just nice to get everybody back into the building, networking, talking about their business, talking to us about what they're experiencing in the field and what they're experiencing with their customers and how positive they were about sort of their continued operations. And really that's what started for us the thought that maybe with the right measures, we could pull this off in a larger scale. And so we started exploring that, obviously, and that's how we reached our decision on the Connect conferences. But as far as the classes go, we had success in July and August. We're taking a little bit of a break here in the later August through the end of September before we pick back up, and then we go almost a full month, straight through with a new class for aircraft instrument systems. Again, our pedostatics classes. The folks at Viavi are coming back for the 4,000 and 6,000 training, and then experimental class after that, and then Rick Perry joins us in mid-October around our Central Connect conference to conduct his regulations of maintenance class and a new internal audit class. So Aaron's got the classroom buzzing. We've been very busy with it and are excited to be able to continue our operations as well.
So we certainly have some new classes being offered, and those classes are not only some of them more appropriate for AEA members, but there also are a variety of classes that we have available for non-AEA members and just aviators in general. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. These are open to anybody. Of course, members get a discount for our training, as always. but they are open to others in the industry. And what we found with our training facility is kind of unique. Obviously it's folks from the industry at all stages of experience, and all levels within their own businesses. But that classroom is a real incubator for the repair station business. And so these attendees come to our class and find out what we're all about, learn from the best folks that are in the industry that do it day in and day out, and and then decide that they either want to start their own or add some service or program to their existing company, and they lean on us for that. And so it's really been an incubator for members into the association as well. So this is something we're excited about as a way to reach other folks in the industry who may not be familiar with AEA.
And so what's the best way that someone could enroll to take one of those classes? How do they go about doing that?
It's as easy as going online at aea.net/training. You'll immediately be taken to a full list of courses. And I think they're even in chronological order as you look at the site there. And then, of course, register credit card over the internet, and you're all set. And just to add to it from the safety perspective, I think this is important to note, because this carries over to what we're thinking for our Connect conferences. We're not just opening up our facility because we can, and we've got all the space and meet, local criteria for, percentage of capacity guidelines. There's pretty direct communication from Aaron Ward, our Director of Operations, to the attendees about our expectations for their health and safety, and what the staff is doing to protect ourselves as well. And we go to the extent of providing the masks, the hand sanitizers, of course the social distancing, closing off parts of the facility that don't need to be used, and where people shouldn't gather, that sort of thing. And then we start every day with a daily symptom log for both the staff and the attendees. So as they come in the morning and line up to get in, appropriately distanced, of course, they actually fill out a symptom log each day, making sure that they don't have signs of COVID or something else that could spread throughout the class and potentially shut us down. So we're checking all the boxes for sure.
That sounds great. And once again, we are visiting with AEA President and CEO Mike Adamson here on AEA Amplified. Reminder to you that this podcast is brought to you by Avionics News, the monthly magazine of the AEA, which is available in print, online, and via mobile apps for Android and iOS devices. You can read Avionics News online at avionicsnews.net, or you can get it on Google Play or download it on the App Store. So Mike, let's talk about moving forward here into the fall and the AEA Connect Conferences and the schedule for this fall. First of all, I know a lot of our members certainly have attended AEA Connect conferences, but we probably have some listeners who don't even know what an AEA Connect conference is. Could you maybe describe what that is, who attends it, and what its purpose is?
Sure. Yeah, those are, they're really regional events. Used to be called our regional meetings, and a series of meetings throughout the U.S., 3 different locations, East, Central, and West. Of course, Canada, Europe, and in our South Pacific region. And in the past, at different times, we've had meetings in Latin America as well. But these are typically 2-day events, and they're technician training focused, shop owner manager focused for the operations of your business. And so this is where repair stations meet to check off their training requirements. It's where they meet to connect with their manufacturer reps from the different associate members of the association, have a little bit of exhibit hall, and then of course there's always networking tied to these. That's really the purpose of these events, is to meet face to face, and more so in your region where you're going to have your peers at the conference with you, not just your local rep from the different manufacturer, but you're going to have shops that are possibly your competition, sitting side by side, to get the training, the regulatory updates from the association on our programs and services. You're going to meet, typically you'll meet someone with the FAA. They're always invited to attend and have a long history of supporting us at these events.
And certainly with these events, 6 of them throughout the world, 3 of them in the United States, you are presented by different challenges and opportunities by geographic region. So, for example, is the South Pacific event, which was scheduled to be in New Zealand this year, has been canceled. The event in Canada has been canceled for this year, and one of the West conferences in California have been canceled. However, there are 2 Connect conferences that are moving forward, and that being in Naples, Florida, which is set for September 23rd and the 24th. And then the other one, which is always very popular, is in Kansas City, October 19th and 20th. So as we sit here the first week of September and talk about those 2 Connect conferences, what can the attendees and the exhibitors expect at these Connect conferences?
Yeah, I'll get to that. I do want to say, it's unfortunate that we had to cancel the Canada event, our meeting out west, and of course South Pacific, and they're all for different reasons. We look very closely, as I mentioned earlier, that we follow the CDC guidelines, the state and local guidelines and protocols, and they vary from region to region, from state to state, and unfortunately, the travel restrictions in and out of the U.S. takes care of those meetings in Canada and the South Pacific, and we plan to do something virtually to reconnect with them, certainly provide updates on a regulatory basis and understand, the challenges they're facing in keeping their operations going. So we will have more information on that in the coming weeks as those events, obviously aren't going to be able to happen. And then the West Connect, unfortunately, California's still pretty locked down, pretty restricted on gatherings over a certain size, and we thought that would open up before we were having to meet out there, and it just doesn't look that way, and it doesn't look like there's any alternatives as far as out west goes. So we're inviting folks to attend the East and Central Connects, and pick accordingly based on your availability, your comfort with where you're headed to. Florida is a major spot for a large number of our repair stations. I think it accounts for about 1/10 of our U.S. Based membership. California is about the same. So putting a meeting right in Florida makes sense if they're meeting the numbers with case counts and that sort of thing that makes sense. So we've scrutinized that every day, paid attention to all of the news that's coming out of South Florida, worked very closely with the hotel to make sure that we're covering our bases as far as the personal health and safety of our members, the AEA staff, and of course the hotel staff. Same with Kansas City. Kansas City, the state of Missouri, really from the beginning has had pretty loose restrictions. From a governor's level, he left it to the different counties and locales, and where we lie and where the meeting will lie in October. There aren't capacity restrictions and that sort of thing. There are the mask guidelines, the personal protective equipment, the sanitizing, social distancing, and all of that, which of course we'll do. But from a meeting standpoint, these hotels have been really incredible to work with. Of course, they want our business, and of course we want to bring them business, but they've been fantastic in providing us enough space to meet, spreading out the rooms, directing the flow of traffic, contactless service, changing their food and beverage setups so that it's, contact free and doesn't allow people to gather, all the different measures that you see with restaurants and facilities that are reopening to make things work. So we're excited about the steps that are being taken at the hotel in Naples and of course in Kansas City to pull this off.
Yeah, Mike, that's great. I know the AEA and your staff is working together with hotel partners to ensure those safe meetings and follow the established protocols, along with the guidance from the CEDC and local governments. You mentioned the PPE kits will be available for attendees and exhibitors, and the seating space 6 feet apart. As far as the schedule and the content that'll be covered, regulatory appearances are there? What kind of content will be covered, and some of the technical aspects that will be reviewed in those Connect conferences?
Yeah, so our format for the conferences is changed slightly. Of course, we'll have our regulatory updates, and I know Rick's working on that schedule. To talk about everything that's impacting repair stations and manufacturers, and he's got some invited officials from the FAA who are working on how they're going to support us. And if in addition to that, we'll have our technical presentations, and for those companies that don't have a complete technical presentation, we've got our product info sessions, which have been very popular. The big change that we've made for this season is really splitting up our exhibit hall to cover the lunch hour. So we've got a couple hours over the lunch hour where we're going to be able to meet with exhibitors, and then still continue our late afternoon, early evening session with the exhibitors. So we've actually added more time for attendees to meet with exhibitors, and we've set it up such that they can do it in the middle of the day or in the evening, and it helps with congestion, minimizing contact, and that sort of thing. And then the second day is sort of our usual routine with technical training, and we've got great support from the companies that have committed so far to our meeting, both in the exhibit hall and on the training program. Aaron's got that all set up, and got the description is up on the website for anything you're interested as far as the technical pieces go.
So for those avionics professionals and AEA members who are interested in attending one of those two Connect conferences in Kansas City and Naples, the best way to register for those is to do it in advance on the AEA website, and you can do that at aea.net/connect, and then choose the event that you want to attend. I also failed to mention that the AEA also has a Connect conference annually in Europe, and fortunately in 2020, that event took place back in January in Germany, so we were able to get that one in. But just looking ahead into 2021, what are your plans for the Europe Connect conference? Maybe what time of the year could that take place, or some of the challenges that you face within that region?
Yeah, I think obviously we're still watching the international travel restrictions, and you're seeing some things ease, but that probably won't get us in the window that we're used to in the early January timeframe or mid-January timeframe. I suspect that will slide, and with the international convention in March, we don't want to get it too close to that. So I would say first half of the year would be ideal. In fact, we used to meet in the May timeframe and connect to other industry events. So we'll watch closely how those shows like Aero Friedrichshafen and of course MBAA's eBase, how those line up, what their plans are, and see if we can connect to those and set a date in that time frame. But it all depends. So I think we've got a little bit of time before we commit to an actual date, but I suspect we will be looking sometime after March and potentially, into June if we have to.
And Mike, as you know, looking ahead to 2021, the bigger shows are also expected to make a return. For example, HAI Heli Expo is set for March 23rd and 25th in New Orleans, and that will have hundreds of education courses and 18,000 industry professionals and 700 exhibitors expected. At last report, the hotel room block for HAI is filling up quickly, and that's great news. The HAI staff, we know, is moving forward with that event. And then, of course, the 64th annual AEA International Convention and Trade Show is set for March 15th through the 18th in Dallas, Texas. So is there any update you can provide right now on the status of the AEA convention for next spring?
Yeah, absolutely. And credit to HAI for pressing on with that. They're roughly, 8-10 days after us. And it's pretty clear from their messaging that they're moving forward with an in-person event. And we're excited about that. We are, of course, ahead of them as far as the calendar goes, and excited to see, the momentum towards an in-person event. As far as our planning goes, that starts the second the last one finishes. Well, the last one didn't finish, so it changed our schedule a little bit. But we have commitments left over from those folks that were expecting to attend Nashville, and we've got some things in place as far as exhibiting that in order to thank them for staying with us. And we're working on the exhibitor prospectus, which we expect to get out here very quickly. We've got a new show we're planning. Format will be similar, but there's going to be changes, of course. We expect that we'll be faced with some other challenges as these things scale up in size and you get more people in attendance, and and we're still dealing with either the effects of or the after effects of the pandemic. So we're on our toes on this. We're excited about the idea that we can meet in person. Of course, our East and Central Connects are sort of the trial balloons for that. But based on what we experienced with our class and what we hope to see with these Connects, we feel confident going forward for the convention, and more information will be coming soon with regards to how we plan to execute that.
Well, Mike, thanks so much for joining us here on AEA Amplified and for your time. Very much appreciate the leadership that you provide in moving our industry forward in these uncertain times for everyone, but just appreciate the opportunities for those who can meet in person and want to meet in person, as our industry is built upon so much in that face-to-face interaction. We appreciate you working so hard to find a path forward and to make those events possible for those who choose to participate. Very much appreciated. AEA Amplified is sponsored by Avionics News Magazine, and appreciate their sponsorship. To learn more about the AEA, visit aea.net, and would also encourage you to follow the association on social media via LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So that's going to wrap it up for today, and we hope you can join us again soon for another episode of AEA Amplified.